All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, sorry that I haven't been around much recently. I've been feeling pretty burnt out following crime. You can only think about pedophiles and murderers for so long before you got to go outside and smell a flower or something. So I figured while everybody, myself included, was glued to the election stuff, I would try to take a strategic break, bow out for a bit, try to recharge, and hit the ground running. I'm feeling a little bit bummed there's no stand-up again this year. I was hoping to be on a world tour at the start of 21, meeting all of you, big adventure, lots of travel, but instead we're having another COVID year, it looks like, so get to stay in the apartment and stare at the wall. That's good too. That's my second favorite thing to do. Also, my best friend, little T, has terminal mouth cancer. My whole family has had plane tickets to come out here to do a New York Thanksgiving. They still haven't been to this apartment since we moved in. The trip has been planned since last March, and the death rate numbers, I don't know, whatever like the important COVID number is in Colorado and New York, they've both been very low. And so the plan was they were going to come out, we're going to do a big Thanksgiving, and then recently the death percentage or the numbers have gone up. So now that trip's canceled, and I was pumped, really excited for a day or two about the Jeremy DeWitt project. You guys were all excited, which pumped me up even more. The Christian, the guy that does the t-shirts with me, he emailed me and thought it was a good idea. He's done the promotional material for a bunch of pretty big documentaries, and that really got me going. And then he was like, I got a friend that recently has made a couple successful documentaries. I think you guys would get along great. And I knew I just needed all the help I could get. And so that was, I was thinking, all right, like there's no stand-up this year, COVID, but maybe this Jeremy DeWitt project I figured it was the perfect COVID project. A lot of people were offering help. It just felt like a direction. A good project brings people together, and I love that. And so my sails were filled with wind. It's full steam ahead, and in a matter of about a minute and a half, learning the real story of Jeremy DeWitt's sexual, what do you call it? Whatever, the charge that made him a sex offender. In about a minute, like I said, reading the details, it went from being like, this is the project, all right, to just like, oh my God, this is not the project. I had to email Christian and be like, he raped a kid. And so, call me an idealist, but I'm not going to give Jeremy DeWitt any money or help him make any money. And as somebody posted on the last video I did about the Jeremy DeWitt project, which I agreed with, was he's not going to do it without money up front. And what a hopeless loser Jeremy DeWitt is. So I'll still make videos about him. We'll make fun of him to no end, but he's too much of a hopeless loser for me to want to work with him. So sorry about that. I know a lot of people were excited about that. I was at the top of that list. And since that died on the table, I've kind of just been floating through the days trying to figure out a project or figure out something to do, something interesting to dive into. But I'm not used to this much time just in the apartment. I'm used to traveling a little bit more, so feeling a little bit weird. But I think we all are. At least we got each other, right? No matter what is going on with this whole crazy world, we got each other. That's how I feel. And so I'm going to tell you guys a little story just so there's something in this episode. I watched a documentary about this in the beginning of October, and I've been thinking about it ever since. And it's one of those stories when I saw it hit the news in 2018, I remember thinking, if I ever get the details of this story, which probably not, but if I ever do, it's going to be years down the road. And now that's where we are, years down the road, and There was a great investigation, and the details are out. So this is the story of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, which is a man who was born in Saudi Arabia, and then he came here to the United States to go to college. Pretty sure he majored in journalism, and so it would be tough to come to the United States where there's free speech, there's freedom of the press. You major in journalism. He wanted to be a journalist. It would be hard to, as you could imagine, to go back to Saudi Arabia where they don't have freedom of the press. I don't even know. It's not. You can't even really be a journalist, right? Because you can't really search for truth. It's just, this is what I'm currently allowed to say. I'm a journalist. Woohoo! And so, like I said, he came to the United States for college, got used to freedom of the press, really felt his passion was journalism. At this point, he was in good standing with the Saudi Arabian government. I don't know what they call themselves, the royalty, crown prince, all these government titles are so stupid. So at this point, he was in good graces with them, to the point where the ambassador of Saudi Arabia here in the United States brought him on as a media manager of sorts. So he was managing the media. And everything seemed to be going good for Jamal Khashoggi. And then in 2014, or around 2014 or 15, a new crown prince, I guess, started in the government that really did not like Jamal. And that was the start of his falling out relationship with the Saudi Arabian government. And so, first thing that they did was they banned him from tweeting and writing. Kind of a strange thing to do. You don't even live in the country and the government says, hey, no tweeting and no writing, all right? And that went on for a while, but like I said, I think once you get a little taste of freedom of speech and freedom of the press as a journalist, that wasn't going to last long. So in 2017, Jamal tweeted for the first time and said, I return to writing and tweeting, grateful to His Highness, the Minister of Information, for his kind efforts, gratitude, and loyalty to the Royal Crown Prince. No free pen is broken and no tweeter is silenced under his reign. So everybody was thinking, like, that's kind of a weird tweet, and my thoughts are, is anytime you're asking a minister of information whether it's okay to write, it's time to you're in big trouble. And so he tweets that in 2017, saying he's back. The crown prince did not like that. And in 2018, Jamal got a job writing for the Washington Post. I'm pretty sure it was the Washington Post. And that, I would say, was the last straw where the Saudi Arabian government says, we got to kill this guy. And they had said he had a big audience in the Middle East, but not until that job with the American paper did his audience really go full global, and he was being critical of the Saudi Arabian government. I had never read any of his stories, but I looked up a couple of them, and one was titled, What the Arab World Needs Most is Free Expression. And he did a lot of TV appearances, which you can imagine the Saudi Arabian government really didn't like, but he would say things like intellectuals and journalists are jailed. And it was a lot of pro-free speech. We need freedom of the press, or what else, what are we doing? Type messaging. He's writing for the Washington Post, and he meets a woman that they want to get married. He had been married, I think, 2 or 3 other times, but they meet. He wants to get married, and also around this time, a friend had said that it was tough on Jamal because he wanted to be a real journalist and stand up for what he believed in and write what he thought was the truth, but also he still had 2 sons in Saudi Arabia that were bankers, and the government there really started to make their lives tough. So, they're trying to live a life. They need to travel for their job, but the government took their passports. And so you got to think they were talking to their dad, like, Dad, it's a nightmare here for us. So that Jamal's friend said that was weighing on him a lot. So the plan became, it's 2018, the plan became that Jamal and his new bride-to-be they bought a apartment in Istanbul, Turkey, and they said, all right, we're going to go to Istanbul. Turkey's right there by Saudi Arabia. I won't be in the country where, they hate me, but I'll be right there. I can see my kids. I can see my family. They bought an apartment in this nice area. Jamal and his new bride-to-be go to that apartment. They stay for a night. They wake up. They have a nice breakfast. And they go to try to get a marriage license in Turkey. During that meeting, they say, in order to get a marriage license, you have to go and get a certificate proving that you're single. And the only place for Jamal to get that certificate was at the Saudi Arabian consulate. And so they're a little bit weary. Is it safe to go to the consulate? They are not happy with him, but they're in Turkey and they got to get married. I think it's probably very important to their religious beliefs that they got married. And so it had to be done. And so Jamal goes to the Saudi Arabian consulate, and they only let one person in at a time, and he has to leave his phone. So he gives his cell phone to his bride-to-be, leaves her standing out on the sunny street to twiddle her thumbs and look at the trees, and he goes in to the consulate. And it's all, high security and thick gates and thick doors, and he really put himself in their hands. And so he goes in, and she's worried out on the street. I just picture her, poor lady, holding his cell phone, just going, please come out, just please come out. And he's in there for, I think, 90 minutes, comes back out and says, okay, it went okay. It went all right. They said that they'll have the documents ready in a couple days. And so they went to London, relaxed there. I'm sure they wished they would have stayed there. But then they came back. They got a call from the consulate saying, we got your papers. Come back on October 2nd at 1:30 in the afternoon. And so they made the trip from London back to Turkey. And at around 1:15 in the afternoon, just like a couple days before, they went back to the consulate. Like I said, that's at around 1 in the afternoon. Well, at 3:30 a.m. on that same day, 2 private planes landed in Turkey from Saudi Arabia with a team of assassins. And this was no ragtag, team. There was a chemical guy to liquefy the body. There was a medical guy to give him the sedative. There was muscle to get him down and put the bag over his head. So, like I said, at 3:30 a.m., these planes land. And I was thinking, isn't that such an assassin time to fly in? Like, I don't feel like an assassin could ever fly in at just, 2 in the afternoon. But that would be tough. If you were married to an assassin, that was your spouse, that would get old after a while. It would be like, all right, I get it. You're an assassin. You're scary. You wear black. But can't you just take the 4 p.m. flight? I don't want to come get you from the airport at 3:30. I'm tired. I got a lot to do tomorrow. I get it. You're an assassin. All right. But one flight, 11 in the morning, is it going to really kill your whole vibe? But anyway, so this just horrifying 3:30 a.m. team of assassins. And the first thing they went and did was buy 20 suitcases. We've heard that in another case where if you're buying giant suitcases immediately when you first get to a country, it's a bad sign. Then after their little suitcase shopping spree, they went and checked into a hotel. They had a reservation for 4 days, but only stayed in the country for 10 hours. And so got suitcases, went checked into the hotel, nice place, and then went to the consulate around 11 in the morning. Like I said, a couple hours after that, around 1 in the afternoon, Jamal shows up. Same thing, same deal as a couple days before. He gives his cell phone to his poor wife-to-be, leaves her out twiddling her thumbs, listening to the birds chirp, waiting, desperately waiting. When you're waiting like that too and nervous, time goes by so slow. And so Jamal, he goes in, same as before. They lock the gate, they lock the door, and at the beginning I said, like when this first came out, I was wondering, will we ever get the details of what actually happened to this guy? And somehow the whole thing, like in the inside, was recorded. And so you hear them say, you got to come back to Saudi Arabia at some point. And him saying, yeah, I'd love to, but, yeah. And they said, well, we need to bring you back, actually, to face these charges or whatever. And he goes, no, there's no case against me. I have someone waiting for me outside. I'm not going to... And they grab him, and there's a short struggle where you can hear a guy with a really cold voice say, like, keep pushing, keep pushing. He's lifting his head up, keep pushing. And then they put a bag over it. They give him a sedative, put a bag over his head. And then within a few minutes, he's up on a table being dismembered with a bone saw. At one point, you can hear some guy goes, close the visa office for the day or something like that. And it almost cracked me up that it's like I just picture two YouTube travel bloggers like waiting in line at the visa office just being like, this is it, we're gonna get our visas, we're gonna go on the big trip, sample the food, we're gonna make all these videos, it's gonna be great. And then a guy pops out of a door completely covered with blood, wearing one of those rubber aprons, wearing gloves, holding a bone saw, and just goes, yes, excuse me, the visa office is temporarily closed. Thank you. And just like went back in, and the YouTube bloggers are, okay. But yeah, at some point they were like, close the visa office, I think. One of the people that was brought in on the team of assassins was a lookalike. Anytime there's a lookalike for anything, I don't know, it just excites me. So they brought in a lookalike, same facial hair, and so before they dismembered him, obviously they took his clothes off, and the lookalike puts him on, and on the recording you hear the lookalike say something like, oh, it's creepy to put on a dead guy's clothes. And so he was instructed to put on the clothes and go walk around and just be seen on as many cameras as possible. Hey, how are you? And kind of a funny part about it is Jamal's shoes didn't fit him. And so Jamal goes in wearing dress shoes, and then the lookalike that's just wandering around in Jamal's clothes has runners on. And a big part of it, so Jamal disappears, right? They put him in suitcases, drive him to the consulate's house, I think liquefy him. I don't know exactly what, but just, oh my God, right? The cars, they can follow the black cars with tinted windows from the consulate to the consulate's house. The cars are there for 3 days, and then they are driven to a car wash and elaborately cleaned. But meanwhile, the hours are going by, and Jamal's poor wife is just sitting out there and just wondering and worrying. And she was probably lulled into safety a little bit because it had gone well 2 days before. And think about how horrible this would have been. So after hours and hours, she goes up to the security guard, and she goes, hey, my husband is, he was getting these documents and he hasn't come out, and I'm worried. And the security guard said something like, all right, hold on, let me check, and came back out, and he goes, there's no one in there. There's no point to wait. There's no point in waiting. And just think of the horror that set in. And her worst fears were true. And so then it becomes this huge news story. Obviously, this poor woman's husband, journalist, disappeared. And for a while, I think like a week or two, the Saudi Arabian government and the consulate were saying, I don't know, we don't know. He left, and there's footage of the guy with the wrong shoes walking around. Isn't that right? And they were like, well, what's with the cameras inside the consulate? And they, just like the old Epstein didn't kill himself, were like, yeah, they don't record. We're one of the richest countries in the world, and we have a state-of-the-art camera system all over the consulate and the grounds of consulate, but it doesn't work. So, and in Istanbul, Turkey, they did a hell of a job with the investigation, and it's all out, and I will link the documentary. If you want to go even deeper, I'll link the documentary in the description. I think that's all I got. I'm going to cut it off there. I really love you guys. I will see you soon. Like I said, I'm trying to get into excited about something interesting so we can all, hang out together. So that's all I got. I hope you're feeling okay. I'll see you next time. Why, Steven, why? Shamita.